I welcome all of you. I extend a very warm welcome to one and all. The Northeast Society, Northeast Welfare Committee organizes every year uh, talks, seminars, movie screening, and film festival. In the past, we had invited journalists, activists, police officer, election commissioner, professors, writers, historians, NGO workers, peacekeepers, lawyers, doctors, even movie directors to come and give their talk to encourage and also to pass on their knowledge to the student community. And we especially organize as such for the Northeast students, and we extend it to our other students also across universities and across colleges. And today I see many colleagues and dear friends from all over the state and coming and joining, and this has given us a lot of encouragement. I hope that you will have an enjoyable time listening to our special invited speaker, Dr. Senganglu Thaimei. I would like to hand over the time to Gunjan to introduce our invited speaker.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I, Gunjan Das, on behalf of the Northeast Welfare Committee of Atmaram Sanatan Dharma College, welcome all of you to today's webinar, The Creativity, Convention, and the Self. Today, I feel honored to welcome Dr. Senganglu Thaimei. She is an associate professor of English in Miranda House, the name we all are familiar with. And along with her academic activities, she is also involved in several socio-cultural activities. She is also involved in archiving projects for Center for Academic Translation and Archiving for University of Delhi. She has also directed and scripted a documentary film called Gan Ngai, the festival of Rongmei Nagas in 2017. And she also curated books in Rongmei language and exhibited in the English department in the arts faculty of University of Delhi. She has read papers and lectured in several national and international academic conferences and seminars both in India and abroad. And she is presently the vice president of Rongmei Scholar Society and also the faculty editor of Beyond the Exotic, that is the annual magazine of Northeast Society of Miranda House. And Dr. Thaimei is also a visual artist and an illustrator. And I must add here that the very background that we used for the poster for today's webinar is actually an illustration by Dr. Senganglu Thaimei ma'am. And she has also illustrated two books that has been published earlier this year of a famous author Eastern Kai's Songri and Journey of the Stone. So without any more delay, I would like to once again welcome Dr. Senganglu Thaimei ma'am. Ma'am, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gunjan, for the introduction. It sounded very long. That's only because I have lived quite long. As you live longer, the CV also goes longer. Thank you, Northeast Welfare Atmaram College. And today I have prepared more slides than what I would be speaking. The title that I have given is called Creativity, Conventions, and the Self. And I'm not going to go into the detail or the theoretical or academic or scholarly theory on creativity, convention, and the idea of the self, but rather I'm going to tell a story. And I have, before I said yes to this talk, I had spoken to my colleague and sister, Dr. Achinglu Kamai, and she told me that it is just going to be an interactive session with the students, and how, she wanted me to tell my story, how I started visual arts quite late in life that way. And to be precise, in 2020 during the lockdown. So I'm going to not get into the detail right now, but I'm going to just slowly talk as I show my slides and my artwork and how I developed it during this 2 years, or a little more than 2 years. But in that, it's premature to to be called a professional artist or a visual artist or an illustrator even. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak as an illustrator, as a visual artist. I have worked in Delhi University for the last 16, 17 years, including my ad hoc years. I've been teaching for like 17, 18 years. But from in Miranda House, I've been teaching in 16 years, and I have done my academic work and things like that. But visual art is something that I took up just in 2020. And it is not, since it's the seminar is the webinar that we have is doesn't have an intention to promote my art or my meager achievement, if it could be called achievements. I said yes. I said yes to speak in the ARSDC webinar only on the strength that I'm just a beginner, a co-learner like all of you, and I have a story. Not of great achievement or high success, but of one that gave me meaning and found a new lust for life, even at this relatively ripe age. That too in the midst of most unlikely or worst times in our living memories. I have read in history and heard stories of plague. But when the pandemic ravaged the world, and when it finally knocked our doors, claiming the lives of our dear ones, it became devastatingly real. Without adequate preparation, the country shut down and we were taken off guard. March 2020 was the beginning of the nightmare we all know too well. As the world reels in anguish, the news channels, the social media were flooded with bad news, misgovernance, and the most marginalized among us being dehumanized. Many of us sitting here in this chat room could afford a lockdown, I guess, but only the dead would remain unaffected by the stories of the migrant workers' long walk home. While the online classes during the uncertainties, students and faculty alike grappled without much success with the new normal. My students were going into depression, panic attacks, and severe anxiety. People across all ages spiraling down the rabbit hole of mental health crisis. As though others did not have access to materials on internet, I started posting and forwarded more bad news on social media pages, as much as I get from other people's pages as well. And as everyone else, I began to lose my mind. April 1st, I decided to lay down my arms, so to speak. There are only two things that I do very naturally, without thinking or without putting any effort. That is, one is cooking and the other one is drawing. Doodling was something that my hand, my right hand does on its own. And it helped me sustain through all these boring lectures in my youth and unending meetings in my adult life. I was what self-righteous, anti-dog-eared book lovers call the monster, the demon, because I would fill empty spaces of the books with random doodles and dirty the pages. That was my only training. I have never been formally trained. My only canvas was these empty spaces I could put down with figures in the empty spaces of the pages of my textbooks. 1 month into the lockdown, I returned to my primeval self, the real me. I found a singular pencil in my house. There was no pencil in my house, believe me or not. And few sheets of photocopy, used photocopy sheets where the back pages were blank. As the real me, when I'm my private secret self, I doodle again. I started posting these sketches on my WhatsApp status stories. The reactions were unexpected and overwhelming. People started sending DMs expressing their delights, and some started even expressing how the doodle soothes them. And I started getting reactions after reaction, and many people expressed that they look forward to the next one, to the next one, and to the next one. And then I started posting again, and through the lockdown I stopped watching the news channel, stopped reading the news, and I realized that I'm doing something else altogether, and there were people who were following that. I drew more whimsical sketches of people known to me on the back, because there was no paper left. There was no stationery shops that were open. So I drew on the old, at the back page of the old calendars and photocopy sheets, gathered courage to finally post on Facebook, finally. It was then the few authors known to me, but they don't know me, famous author, got in touch with me and said they really liked my drawings and they wanted to know more about me. And one of them was Istirin Kire. And we exchanged numbers and started talking multiple times a day. I continued sharing my drawing on WhatsApp status. And when there was some relaxation on this lockdown, my husband gifted me, like a child, a father to a child, gifted me a set of color pencils. I never thought I would ever know how to use the color pencils, or any color for that matter. We ordered more colors, crayons, acrylic paints, and no idea what they are. And I just started using it without any background of using the colors, and had never touched this material in my life before 2020. I channeled all my browsing on social media or reading the news to watching YouTube tutorials of different medium. And I tell you, YouTube is flooded with bad tutorials where the tutors would speak for 1 hour to draw one flower. But there are loads and loads of excellent tutors too. And without much talking, they have some musical, and then they did miracles. And I found a couple of them and stuck to them. And I had 3 tutors that I followed. I experimented with colors. The reaction to my sketches that I post on WhatsApp status turned out changed from pretty wonderful to can I buy some? So I'll share my screen now and talk as I share the slides. And is it visible?
Not visible yet. Yeah, it's coming on.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay, does it change? Okay, right. Right, this was the beginning. And I started sketching people known to me. This is this girl, the cursor her name is Crispa. She's a pretty colleague, very beautiful colleague from Ramjas College. I just drew her face taken her face from her DP, and then put flowers and curl her hair and put her around. And these are people I known to me. This is a girl from JNU. She was in hostel and she was feeling very low during the lockdown. We chatted a lot. And then I drew her face and put butterflies around it. And this is my friend's daughter. She doesn't have a hairstyle like this ever, but I just whimsically put this. This is my cousin who became a young mother around that time. So I just drew her face, and the scar, the beauty spot that she has, I have put it there. And this girl, she appeared in one of the Manipuri music videos, and I thought her face was very interesting. So I put a flute and painted leaves around it, where make her wear Japanese clothes and things like that. Then there is this friend of mine who was a mother, and then during the lockdown she was stuck with these 2 children in the house, and her only fuel was the endless cup of tea that she makes herself. So I drew it for her with flowers around, and then calling her super mom. And then I started experimenting with colors. I did a hybrid kind of a thing because I was too scared to color the drawings. And then I started coloring a little bit here and there, and it doesn't really make sense, but then I thought it was okay. And I drew and drew, and then I have more confidence in putting more colors to the fruit, but I had no confidence in putting in the bird. Then I made it into like this, and then later on it goes on, and this is the textbook kind of my memory of the old textbook that I used to love of the birds, so I drew this, and that slowly I began to overcome the fear of colors. And then the splashes of color. When I started using color, I fell in love with colors, and I just started using color too much, actually. So wherever I go, I was just splashing colors. This is my niece. She doesn't look a lot like this, but then I told her that it's her, and I made her into a fairy. And then I have all random things that I post on my WhatsApp status: the scooter, my father's old scooter, and the memory of the pumpkin plant in my mother's garden, and the bird, some unnamed. I don't know the name of this bird. This is in the style of Chinese vintage bird drawings. And these fishes, these are pet fish of my nephew. The names are Puk Puk and Buk Buk, and they died. And so as a tribute to those fish, I had drawn for my nephew. So these are few instances where I have started using very, very basic colors like blue, yellow, and red, and pink, and all of that. And from my fear to indulging in color, that was the transition that I made in so now after that, I have begun to tame down a little bit, and I focused on personifications. Earlier, in the beginning, I started with sketching the known faces of people I love and I admire, whose beauty I admire. Then I made into personifications. I drew a lot of personifications. These are my cousins. I have 3 cousins, very in the prime of their youth, young men, very handsome and dynamic. So I see them. When I see them, then I see them as roosters, and then these are their names. I have shortened their names, but then I have put them all together as Rosh the rooster, Raf the rooster, and Rob the rooster. These are the 3 roosters, the 3 brothers, and I have personified them. And these, I must say that several people expressed their willingness to buy my artwork. I have never sold anything in my life before, let alone the artwork. I couldn't afford to gift everyone who liked it. But so I started selling art, and 100% of the sale proceeds went to charity, given to a charitable organization initially who was feeding the migrant workers' family who lost their jobs during the lockdown. Then I continued drawing, among others. I want to share a story of, let me stop sharing for a bit for now. There's this person I know. During the lockdown, a lot of people were doing charitable work. But there was this guy, my husband's old friend, who was doing an amazing work, and he never says anything on the Facebook or social media. He happened to talk to us, and he told us that he was cremating strangers. He was burying. He was a Christian minister, so he was burying and conducting funeral for people who passed away, who had fallen victim of COVID in government hospital, and who had no one in the city to bury them, give them dignified funeral. So I wrote to him saying that I want to contribute in the same way, because he was also spending a lot of money, conducting all this, buying this, giving the cemetery charges and all of that. And then he gladly agreed to take the money. and people, I started contacting people who expressed that they wanted to buy my artwork. I shamelessly said that, you should buy it if you want it. I'm going to sell it. So everybody generously bought them. Some bought up to 12 pieces by a single person. And I sent them the work. The money was sent to the man, and few other families that I don't want to talk much about, people who were in hospital battling for life, whose families, were left helpless because of the strict protocols regarding the burial of the COVID death. And this man was helping. The money wasn't great. My artwork is not sold in, like high prices, but it was something that I found meaningful in my serious hobby, sort of. Then comes, I'll share again. So these are some of the works that I drew during, these are the artworks. I have drawn over 300 of them in the last 2 years, but I've selected a few of them that sold really, really well. So when I drew with conviction, and I wanted to draw something that is very dear to me. These are the water hyacinth. I grew up in Imphal, and Imphal has many swampy areas, and in that, this flower was very dear to me. Somehow I was attached to this flower, not a potted plant, not those fancy daffodils and lilies, but imported ones, and begonia and whatnot. But I like the wildflower, and then of course the plantain or banana blossom. This was grown right at the backyard of my family home, and I had always been fascinated by the color of banana blossom, and this gave me a chance to just remember and look at some reference pictures and things like that. And of course, I frequent the hill district of Manipur, and in there you find corn in different colors. They are like pearls to me. If I look in this, put it in the sun, and as the sun shines on this like old, kind of ripened and mature corn cob, you see that the shine of this pearly grain. And then of course, this is Manipur's own heartbeat, the tree bin, the favorite food of the Manipuris. So these were selling really well, so I have put them. And here, from there, I was also inspired by all these stories of shapeshifters in folk tales. And in that, the story of how animal turn into human, and human turn into men and bird and all of that. So I don't have any story about hornbill, human turning. I mean, there is a story of a human turning into hornbill. Based on that, I have made it into a woman and a man. This is Rome traditional clothes that I have put it, and I've made the background sepia just to kind of make it into an old looking, ancient looking scene. And then, of course, the tiger man, which is a common tale in Manipur. In all the tribes, you'll find a tiger man story. It's one of my favorite story as a child. So I had drawn a tiger man. And here, this is a very English because I studied English literature all my life. So the daffodils was something that I started reading. Somebody, one girl ordered she said she wants to contribute towards the funeral, the charity and things like that. So I said, what do you want? And she says, she drew me daffodils. I tried drawing daffodils, but nothing came out. I just couldn't imagine that, daffodil is not part of my imagination. So I drew a personified daffodil, and she is a girl, but she is also daffodil. So I call her Daffy. So she is like a shape-shifting daffodil flower. So that is that was the story of the artwork sale in the first lockdown. And then comes in during the second wave, while we were working, while we were still stuck in a virtual world. Easterin said it's time for us to do something about these drawings, and she dug out an old old story which was lying in her deep freezer of a computer, and then she said, let's do this story so that we can do something for the people. So what happens is that Isturin Kire, both the books that I have illustrated, the first one is called Songri, the second one is called Journey of the Stone. Both the books were written to run a faith kitchen in Kohima, a kitchen that feeds the homeless, and especially during the pandemic, those without Aadhaar card in the city of Kohima, they were not given the ration by the government because they didn't have the ration card, or they didn't have the Aadhaar card. So Faith Kitchen stood in the gap, and Isturin wrote these two books so that we could sell it, and then give the money the proceed will go towards Faith Kitchen, and then feeding the homeless and people who do not have papers. And Isturin gave me the privilege to be part of this project, and the Barb Weaver, the publisher of these books, paid me, but Isturin told me to take the money. I said, why should I take money for my drawing? I'm not a professional illustrator and things like that. But she told me one thing, that I should take the money for the effort of drawing. It would be a bad example for young struggling artists if an illustrator is not paid her due. I found meaning in that, and then I realized that the books will not be sold in Amazon, so that the Amazon with the already rich Amazon owner will not get the profit. Rather, the people who run the Faith Kitchen would sell the book and use the money to feed the homeless. So now, after this, these books of Isturin Kire had exploded my imagination, and these are few of the drawings that I made. Those were the first slide. This was these are the covers. It's about, both of them are fantasy in genre. The land of the spirits, and all these creatures that I have drawn are spirits in the unclean forest of where the protagonist wander around as a spirit himself. And this one's about, again, it's like a song. It's a story and a song, so it's a songri. And then and in this I have, this is a guardian of the wildlife. Okay, he kind of blow a horn, and then the animal gather around him. This is a river spirit, the poster that you have used, the colored one I have made later. And this is the unclean spirit, unclean forest. And if you ask me why it is in black and white, and to the great disappointment of Isturin's reader, people were saying, "Oh, it would have been lovely if it had been in color." But to tell you the truth, there was no funding, and we're not looking at big, kind of a profit out of this. So we couldn't afford color illustrations for this. And post-COVID, after that, the second wave, I myself was infected. I got COVID, and my husband got COVID, and my brother who lived with us had COVID. And for a long time, for about 2 months, almost 3 months, I couldn't draw anything because I was too weak, and we were just battling for our lives. And then but after I have recovered a bit, I started drawing again, and I drew, and my hands were shaking. I thought, I've lost the skill and things like that. But then I drew more and more. The more I drew, I became perhaps even better than the first time round. And let me stop sharing this again for a bit now. And the reason why I tell you all these stories is and share my drawing is because it's great. It's not because it's a great art or anything like that, but there is something that surprised me. Myself, how a person who just started drawing on a page behind a photocopy or behind a back page of a calendar could reach to a point where I'm illustrating, and within a very short span of time, you may think that it is like really, really fast and things happen with you and things like that. But then I must tell you that I'm 42, and when I started drawing, many of my classmates from high school, told me that they remember me as a drawer, as a doodler. and they remember me as somebody who drew all the time, as I was telling you in the earlier part of the lecture, earlier part of the talk. And when Singlu talks about multitasking, that she is multitasking, I tell you, she is one multitasker. And what I called, in my case, a little bit, not as much as hers, but then she is a slow motion multitasker. And and when we talk about slow motion multitasking, it is serious. And you know, when one is creative, one could be creative, and one could be talented, one may not be talented, but some talents remain dormant, and it takes a long time to emerge in its full form. And then the creativity flows when you are given. It may lie dormant for a longest time. I remember when I talked to Sister Chinliu, she used to tell me that she started running when she was like 48 or something. And then she loved walking. She loved physical exercise, as in walking, for a long time. Now she is an ultra marathon runner, but then she started walking a long time ago. And then I started drawing, and you may say that in 2 years you have achieved so much and things like that. But then I started drawing when I was a kid, and my father had a scrapbook where he has put a doodle of mine when I was like 3, and then he had collection of my drawings. And when I look back on my old classmates talking about how I used to doodle all the time on the pages of my textbooks, I realized that it is a slow motion multitasking. And then creativity flows when that opportunity is given. It flowers. And but like I was saying, I have found my own self again, my primeval self, when I was given the opportunity of the lockdown and then it became useful. And conventions tell you that you need formal training, certificates, recognition in society. You know, conventions told you that you need to prove yourself. You may ask, what is the motivation behind your aspirations, your ambition? Is it proving to oneself to others? But rather, I would say that it is not. Okay, creativity, that is the graveyard of creativity. What is most natural to you? Okay, what comes most natural to you coincides with your own self, the real you. You don't have to show how happy you are in the media, okay? But when you're truly happy, you will know it. So when we talk about when I say serious hobby, you may not know it now, but there must be something that is real you. You only knows what gives you happiness, and that could become your serious hobbies. Between the 2 waves of COVID-19, I have drawn over 300 pieces, and in that I have sold only about 12 of them very consistently. I would kind of conclude with two illustrations, as in not illustration as in visual illustration, but a story. I'm just going to take a safe example of Charles Darwin, the iconic, the writer of the iconic theory of evolution and the controversial descent of man. It is said that when he started his research with earthworm. Earthworm, he used to put earthworm in his bottle and do experimentation and study the life cycle of earthworm, but nobody knew about it. But whenever there was, particularly during the time when his book, Descent of Man, became very, very controversial, and he was trolled, to use the modern language. When he was trolled badly, when he went into depression, he went back to his earthworm and then worked on it. And then very late in his life, he published a book on the life cycle of earthworm, 47 years after he started the work. And so and that was 19th century. You may say you don't have 47 years to come out with a book, but it is possible, and it can become your magnum opus as well. I come from a land of bamboos. Bamboo plants grows everywhere. If you travel from Infal to Tamenglong, you come across ranges of bamboo. The mountains are filled with bamboo. It is said that bamboos take several years to establish. It is said that it grows deep and stays dormant for years, many years. But once the shoot appears, it is considered as the fastest growing wood, stronger than steel, spread wild, invincible, and only its natural cycle could kill. The ranges and ranges of bamboos that you find is unconquerable. They are a formidable force, if you know what I mean. So maybe at this point, some students, some young people, I'm not perhaps not talking to the mature, high achieving people, but the young students, if you think that you have no talent, nothing outstanding, you don't have the quality of the spring flowers that pop up when the earth warms up, pleasing to the eye, short-lived, admirable. It has its own uniqueness, but you may not be a spring flower, but a bamboo plant. The long-lasting, strong, invincible, one of the most useful woods in the world. And anyone who has seen a bamboo grove will testify what a beauty it is, a different kind of beauty from the spring flower. So if you have not, even if you don't find my artwork good or anything, if my story isn't inspiring, that's fine. But at the end of it, I would say that please remember the earthworm and the bamboo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sengmai. That was such an enriching talk. You have put in a little bit of theorizing into your talk. I love the way how you put doing things in slow motion, your skills, your talents embedded in you, yet not coming out immediately, and taking time to flourish, taking time to grow. And most of the attendees are students beginning their life, and I see many first-year students also. You might be having a lot of ideas now, listening to the wonderful, insightful, encouraging, inspiring talk. And so give yourself time. You need not be out there immediately. So hone your skills, and surely you will be there someday. And during the talk, so many people have texted me saying they would love to buy the artwork of Dr. Sengmai, and to give them the link. And also, if it helps organizations like Faith Kitchen or the other charity, they would love to pitch in, and they would love to buy also. And also, it's very encouraging to know that Dr. Sengmai did not do any formal training in drawing, illustrating, painting, and so especially for the students coming from the outer periphery, if I may say that, who do not have access to good institutions where they could go and learn the art, not necessarily only painting and drawing, but the other skills as well. By this talk, I am sure you might be disheartened thinking that you do not have the facilities or the institutions, but now we know if we have the passion, and if we follow our passion consistently, then the little efforts, the atomic minute habits will form, and it will grow big, and you will have success in life. Thank you so much, Dr. Sengmai ma'am, for accepting our invitation and also giving us this precious, precious talk, and such beautiful illustrations you have shown in your slide. Very inspiring. And I have Esther's book here. This is the book. You might want to buy not only the illustration, but the book as well. And ma'am will share later on where how you can get in touch with her. Okay, and a lot of appreciation is pouring in, and if Dr. Sengmai can read, please do read. Pervin had put in, you are very inspirational, ma'am. Your artwork is mesmerizing. Thank you for giving us your precious time. And Shivani, I wish ma'am had drawn my picture as well. Her story is really inspiring. And uh, Joseph, Dr. Joseph has written very inspiring and wonderful talk. Thank you, Dr. Senganglu. And because she just told us how to sharpen your saneness and surpass your debacle. That's a wonderful observation. We get healing indeed. And from Rosalind, very interesting talk, Dr. Senganglu. Thank you, Rosalind, for coming in. And Saurav, thank you, ma'am, for letting us to be a part of this event. And Anshika, and also many have written in saying thank you and how they appreciate the
Thank
picture.
you so much. Thank
And
you, everyone. I cannot thank enough for the opportunity. This is my first presentation on my artwork, and I keep her sister, so I keep saying Dr. Kamei, Dr. Chinglu Kamei had very graciously allowed me to speak on my amateur artwork, and just to in my worry that I might have overtaken the time. I mean, I have overused the time. I forgot to show at the last slide. So let me show this. This is a Loktak Lake in Manipur, and this is my first watercolor composition. And I'm learning. You could see that it is a work, very, very shoddy work, but then I loved it because it is watercolor, and what I was using watercolor for the first time. So I'm a beginner all over again. So I will never stop being a learner. I
Miss
will
Nitin,
never.
could you please switch off your audio?
So I'll never stop being a learner, being a beginner all my life. And my lust for life begins
Nitin, please mute yourself.
with being a beginner all the time, a learner. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, despite my limitation as an artist. But thank you again for all your generous and kind words, or people who have written on the chat box. I must say that some of my friends are here. I want to acknowledge Loya Laima. She was one of my biggest cheerleaders while I was drawing, and she bought a couple of charity, artwork sale. She lives in Infal and she teaches in DM College, and she's here today. And Arianga and Joseph and Maka, I saw Maka also, Rosalind. I was supposed to send some artwork to Rosalind, but I haven't been able to send her. Sorry, I'll send you soon. But I mean, thank you. I have no words, but thank you for this great privilege of meeting you all and allowing me to speak.
Before we move on to the vote of thanks, actually, I would like to ask a question. So I had a query to Dr. Senganglu Thaimei ma'am. So as none has asked, so I think that only at least one question should be asked to our speaker. So my question is that, ma'am, do you agree and do you think that the very present education structure that we have right now in entire block, so do you think that we should focus more on how to at least increase the creativity of the students? Because we see that study also shows that those students who are performing more in having good academic excellence, they are more likely to opt for conventional courses. Like, and this total concentration to the conventional courses at one extent actually overshadow the creative potentials of the students. So actually this sometimes what happens, they become a kind of a some those who actually lacks creativity, but they have that, but they cannot express that well because of their lack of experiences and lack of exposure that the current education system provides. So ma'am, do you think that this is the case, and how do you actually tackle this lack of concentration and focus on the creative capacities of the students that education system should actually concentrate upon?
I think you have raised a very important and very critical question, and I'm the example of that. And I went to a school where academics was the only focus, and there was no sports, there was no, that's why I never used color in my life until like 2020. And despite the fact that I had some, rough edges to become an artist, but then my father comes from a very poor family, and everybody was poor in the 1970s. And so he told me that, you become whatever you want, but make your feet planted on the ground first, establish yourself something, and after that you could be whatever you want. We from the middle class families, we can't afford to be anything else but get a good job first and do whatever we want. And that is me. That is exactly what's happening with me. But of course, yes, you're right, that in the process, a lot of talents have been buried, and there was no opportunity for the talents to grow. And but I think we are living in better times. I know the structurally the education system does not give you that kind of room to grow, if you are going to go through the conventions of education system now. But at the same time, I grew up in the 1980s and 90s. If you look at it, I'm not providing you a solution, but I'm comparing my time as opposed to people who are students today, that they have more opportunity to explore. As I was saying, it takes to master in something, it takes a long time, and you have to multitask. And in multitasking, you cannot. Let me be clear here. Please do not misunderstand or do not think that multitasking is synonymous to distraction. We are a very, very distracted generation as well. So you are doing, you're listening to lecture and you're also Facebooking or you're also Instagramming. That is not multitasking, that is distraction. But multitasking, as I was saying, slow motion multitasking takes effort, takes hard work, and you can be doing two things at a time. You could be a singer, you could be a musician, you could be an artist, you could be a footballer. And I know the structure does not allow you to become a full-time, alternative, honing of your talent. But then at the same time, you have the opportunity to do that. And I know it takes extra mile, but if you love it, you wouldn't feel it. You wouldn't feel. You will only grow, and you wouldn't feel that it is a burden. Academics, there are ways to earn money. The problem with middle class, the problem with Indian middle class is, how do you earn a living by singing? How do you earn a living by drawing or something like that? That is the main. Money could be earned in different way, but when it comes to creativity, you shouldn't have the eye on your eye on money. That would be a very liberating position to take, and it can bring money. It's not like it doesn't bring money. It can bring money, but first and foremost, is it something that you love? Is it something that you want to do alongside other things? And it is possible. The capability of human being is, the potential of human being is tremendous, and we have not explored it. And I know that all of you have something hidden in you. Only you know that. You are alienated. You feel like a misfit in many circles because you are different. And why are you different? You ask yourself. Perhaps you'll find an answer, and you will perhaps find a way to do it alongside other things that you're doing. I don't know. I speak like a very middle class person, but then I'm not a radical. I'm not a radical. I'm a pragmatic. That's therefore my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have, maybe I can spare a minute or two if there's anybody else who would love to ask ma'am something, so that you'll not regret later on.
Do you have a favorite illustrator or an artist you're inspired by?
My imagination is fed by my readings. So most of the illustrators are, English. Peter Barry's one. I loved, when I was a kid, I loved, Beatrice Potter. and her personification of her animals. You could see that in my illustration also, that I don't see humans as humans. I see them as ducks and rabbits and foxes and, and rooster. My poor cousins, they are roosters. And then I drew a sweater, a mouse, a illustrator of a mouse with a sweater that my nephew wears all the time one winter. And then I said, no, I drew something for you. I thought he'll feel special. I gave it to him, and he said, but it's nice. But he said, he was 7 then. He said, it's nice, but why am I a mouse? So yeah, so I have a fascination for this, and mostly I'm inspired by English illustrators. I think there was a hand up.
Nitin, if you would like to ask briefly, could you put in?
Ma'am, I wanna know that are you interested in any particular type of technique in arts like Western, ancient, like Rajarami Verma's and others? Are you inspired from any painter like
Inspired?
this or
No.
any?
I don't have that kind of high ambition or skill to copy any masters. But when I was in college, I have to confess, there are many faculty here. I'm a faculty myself, but I belong to a generation where we were writing, Delhi University was writing annual exams. We didn't have semester system. So we had one exam right at the end of the year. The whole year we are like just attending classes, which I did not. I did not attend any class, and because I found some of the lectures really boring, and I thought I better spend my time in library. And all through second year, BA honors, BA English honors second year, I spent in the library reading art history. And my favorite was the 19th century Dutch, Impressionist painting, French painting, French Expressionist and Impressionist painting. But I teach a lot. I use a lot of illustration, and I use a lot of paintings in my teaching because I teach English literature and the art movement. And so whenever I travel abroad, whichever country I go, the first thing I head to is the museum, the art gallery. And the wonderful thing about art gallery is that we get prints at extremely cheap prices, inexpensive prices. That for $10 you get 5 paintings and all of that. So that is what I love, and I'm a loner. I love traveling alone. I love being alone. I love my solitude. In solitude, I find the richness of myself, and so you see that is what I like. And yes, I don't have a favorite. I love pre-Raphaelite paintings. If you look at my women figure, I cannot compare. I can't even say they are inspired. But then if you look at my women, like Supermom and things like that, you will find a woman figure with flowers, with a framed by flowers. Those are inspiration from pre-Raphaelite paintings. And pre-Raphaelite, I like it also because it has this, very arrogant, very audacious idea about, we are the greatest. We are like pre-Raphaelite, Raphael has destroyed the art of West European art. We are better than Raphael, so we are pre-Raphaelite and things like that. And because I teach 19th century literature, and you would find that a lot of literature is a lot of the text that you have in your syllabus in Delhi University syllabus is direct influence of the painting as well. So in my lecture, you would find, for example, the Lady of Shalott, and you would find the pre-Raphaelite paintings after paintings on Lady of Shalott, and things like that. So yeah, painting has been my secret indulgence all my life.
Thank you so much for that. We enjoyed enormously, but every good thing has to come to an end, and time is running out. Yes, I can see if is that
Okay, I don't know. It's up to you.
Gandhi Riyang, he's our first year student. Very, very briefly, you put in your question. Okay, this will be the last one. You can unmute and ask your question.
Madam Thaimei, I am from Northeast India, and I believe that we haven't, the Northeastern people, we are not well represented in literature. There are only a few names, Mamang Dai, Temsula O, and I saw a new one, a woman. I mean, what was her name? Lindum. She's from Meghalaya. So, what is your advice to us budding writers from Northeast India who want to be in the Indian literary circle? And do you believe that we don't have a stream of writing as such? In other parts of India, they have developed, such as the literature and other form of stream of writing. I think we have been unable to develop our own stream of writing. So that's my question.
Thank you for your question. You have your ma'am, Ting Liu, sitting right here. She's a poet. She is a story writer. She is somebody who writes consistently, and she publishes several of our poems have been yeah, you're right. It is less represented. But the thing about this common grievance that we have amongst the Northeastern, as you call, budding writer, is that where is our representation and where is our space in the mainstream and things like that. It doesn't really have to be like that. I really liked what my friend Bayo Pao had done this time. He published his first novel, his debut novel, Waiting for the Dust to Settle. And then he has single-handedly built a strong reading base in the Northeast. And he wrote a story, a very complex story, a political, historical, serious novel. And the last 1 month, he went around in the Northeast and talking to the colleges in the Northeast. And the readers, his readership is 90% Northeasterners. And you would see that his books are sold out, okay? And he has, some people, Loya is here. Loya was just telling me yesterday that he had to wait for the book to arrive because the book was sold out, and it took, so, why do you want to be part of this so-called mainstream, to be accepted, to be validated? Or it's not necessarily so. We can build our own readership, and all of this, for example, a very safe example I give, Black writers. If you look at Black writers, if you listen to Toni Morrison's interviews, you would find that she talks about how she writes for the Black people. Okay, and it's not something that you are trying to beg for representation. You are not asking for, we are also Indian, give us attention. No, you don't have to do that. You be yourself, and you can build a culture of reading. The onus lies on us that we build a culture of readership among the people who understand what you're talking about. And so I think that is the new perspective one has to embrace, and think that, I don't want a little space in your crowded place, but rather we build a different house, right? We build a different house, we build a mansion where we can live. And whether you like it or not, you won't be ignored anymore. At some point in time, there is a mansion out there to be admired, and people will come and see your mansion. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much for that. While we wait for, the talk has come to an end, but the conversation has not come to an end. And ma'am will be glad to continue the conversation with you. Okay, I can share her email address to you later. And I'm so happy that students from across different communities are here. And our student Gaurav would love to take a few pictures of us to create memory. So could you please kindly show your video while we wait for Pinky ma'am to say the vote of thanks? If you can, could you please put your video on?
I'm posing for the picture.
Thank you so much for obliging us. Yeah.
I
Now
would like
I would
to
like.
just say
Yes.
a word before I leave. I would like to appreciate the in the chat box there is Shrestha Srivastava. She says every illustration was enchanting. Thanks a lot for being such an inspiration. Blah blah blah. I've always loved art and have attempted a few pieces too, but never took it seriously. I never take my art seriously. Actually, I never take myself seriously ever. After this webinar, I'm definitely going to try my hand at different illustrations. Thank you for this message, Shrishta. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank
If
you, ma'am.
anything, I have forgotten everything. I won't forget your message. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
would like.
Thank you very much.
I would like to call on
RMP.
ma'am
It was
to
a great
say the
session,
word of
ma'am.
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for your inspiration video today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honor and privilege for me to give the vote of thanks in this special program. First of all, I, on the behalf of the Northeast Welfare Committee, would like to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. Gyantosh Kumar Jha, for his untiring support and encouragement to our society. It is because of his support and encouragement that our committee could organize different kind of program like Rainbow Fest, orientation, movie screening, and many more events successfully. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our today's speaker, Dr. Senganglu Thaimei, for taking out her valuable time for us. Ma'am, you have shared a wonderful and insightful, interesting insight. We are really inspired and motivated by your talk. I would also like to thank all my colleagues and members of this committee, especially Dr. Achinglu Kamai, Dr. Premjit Singh, Dr. Shivani Fukan, Dr. Ajit Kumar, Dr. Nimalini for their kind cooperation. Also, I would like to thank again the student committee members, Gunjan, Horam, Gaurav, and others in making this program a great success. And lastly, but not the least, I would like to thank all our colleagues from our college and from other college as well. Thank you all for attending the program and making a successful one. We look forward for the next program. Thanking you all.